This year, Hackers Challenge was a hit. I loved it. You loved it. I hope you had a ton of fun. Yes. I always want to start out by giving a minute and saying thank you to the amazing team that supported Hackers Challenge this year. Last year, I started Hackers Challenge saying, this is going to be my last year. I'm ready to retire. I'm done. It's been a long 8 years. I've loved it. And it's a baby that needs to be passed on to somebody else. And some of my good friends, your competitors and friends as well, came forward and said, hey, you need to keep doing this because you rock at it, and we want to help you. So thank you so much to Rigel and to Santiago for stepping up and being the support that I needed as staff members for Hackers Challenge to make it happen and be successful. And so thank you. I'm here to stay. I loved it this year. I started not exhausted. I'm ending energized from talking and playing with each of you. So that is wonderful.
Because you weren't playing the challenges.
Yes, I did not play the challenges this year. I got to sleep. I thought I had another slide here. It's not showing in my presenter mode. I also want to say thank you to my volunteers. Had a couple other volunteers that were helping me. Had Sheeprock and Squatch, and they were there at the booth playing as well with you, but not privy to extra information, but they put in a lot of effort to spend time at the booth to welcome you and invite new people to the Hackers Challenge. So thank you to the volunteers too. So what you're interested in, stats. You want to know all the stats of the crazy things that happened, right? So most solves was the puzzle Filter It. Well number of solves there. Large percentage of the players solved that one. Not everybody, but most. Challenge with the least solved. This isn't unsolved. We have a couple unsolved ones, but with least solves, only one player solved Burn the Bridge. Players or peoples with the most solves, you will see there's two names there. We've got Taco Singularity and Lego Clones, both with the most solves. This is not where I'm telling you who's winning Hacker Challenge this year. You're going to have to come to closing ceremonies for that. Even if one name is there with the most solves, does not mean they have the most points. So, very interesting. Total people who solved the challenge. So we had a lot of players this year. It was great to see 264 players that actually solved the challenge. Not everybody that registered actually was able to solve one, but 264 to actually solve a single is a good hit. 57 people that played enough to solve a full 10 puzzles. What this tells me is that I didn't do enough beginner puzzles. I'm sorry if the challenge difficulty went from a couple easy ones to high, medium to high, hard. I need to get some more in that lower range. Message heard. 363 wrong answer guesses for the puzzle with the most wrong answers. That would be the crypto means gibberish puzzle. And then the player, you know who you are, 267 wrong guesses throughout the game. Which ends up to being about 41% correct answers and somewhere around 59% wrong answers throughout the game. Total 68 challenges on the board. We did not do Hacker Jeopardy this year. You guys were having fun with what was on the board. I didn't want to throw in another wrench of distraction. So no Hacker Jeopardy this year, but the trivia will be coming back next year. Do count on it. Double Jeopardy was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed the variety that we threw in with the OT challenges, ICS challenges on day 2, and day 3, Double Jeopardy. Special thanks for the OT and ICS puzzles that were contributed by a good friend and player. You guys loved them, and so thank you so much for contributing those. Registered users, 372 users registered, and 264 players actually played. So, AWS stats. Most of our infrastructure was hosted in AWS. Next year, there will be infrastructure in Azure for you to attack. I'm telling you that now. We had 28 instances, somewhere several dozen CNAMEs. There will be some Lambdas next year. I'm just telling you that there's some fun challenges there that you'll see. Rigel says he couldn't do it 'cause he couldn't figure out Lambda. We had some ideas that would have been fun for like the hash collider. That definitely could have been a Lambda instead of an S3 instance, but next year. S3 objects. We stored 100 megabytes of S3 objects, over 9,000 unique items. We were logging your activities, be it in the hash collider or in the shell games. You'll see some of those fun things that you produced for us. So those are the stats. Is there any call out? Anybody want to say, hey, I want to know about this stat really quick before I move on?
How many challenge authors?
Challenge authors. I will get that list for you. I will post that in the Hackers Challenge channel for everybody. We had a lot of fun contributions. We had Rigel and Santi, myself, that hit the vast majority of them. We had a lot of contributions from a lot of communities. We had them from the password cracking community in Q. We had them from Brucifer and team in the healthcare community. We had them from Vortex in the Home Labs community. We had AppSec community contributed some. Our ICS OTS was contributed by Spectre, and we really appreciate them. And then the remainders were me, Santi. Oh, and I'll call out one by our good friend Scotty that's not here this year. Scotty's won the Hackers Challenge 3 times in the past. Couldn't make it this year, but he pulled out the Python challenge, the tar pit for me. And Plum. I have to call out Plum. Yes, Plum provided a couple of RE challenges. One of his own design and one from inspiration from myself as well. So a really very big thank you to the contributors that helped me build Hackers Challenge. They love it as much as you do and have had fun with it, and it makes it a wonderful game. This was one of my favorite challenges this year. It was Precon Challenge that showed its face on the board. Did you have fun with it? Okay. I would have loved to produce this coin and provide it to you. I actually started 3D modeling it to do that. Didn't get to that point. So maybe next year the coin will surface as a physical coin. Any questions? Did anybody not solve it or curious about it? Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. So this coin is a lot of very basic classic crypto, stuff that's kind of fun. Let's look at the front of the coin, and you'll see around the face, there's the Hackers Challenge words on the outside. On the inside, you'll find Braille dots. And those... Could
you try again?
No, Siri. I won't try again. So these Braille dots indicated numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you'll notice that those dots are underneath letters. So 1 under an A, 2 under a T. And so this spells out the name @bash, which is the next cipher that's used for the outside ring of this coin. So @bash is a classic crypto cipher where it's A equals Z and B equals Y and just reverses the alphabet. And so once you've used @bash on the outer ring, you get a hint that says something to the effect of 7 width, 5 deep. And with some of my favorite classic hacker hints, and you should go decode it and see the messages. 5 wide, 7 deep means you go ahead and take these 70 characters and you write across 7 characters, across, 7 characters, and 5 down. And after you've done that, you have a square. Then you have to create a new square and do the same thing. And so with these 2 squares, you can then read the message down the columns to get to the next step. That will end with a hint towards XORs. And so then you take these binary, this hexadecimal digit string, and you XOR that against the center text. There's a gotcha there. If you're using tools like CyberChef, it works on byte boundaries. It won't work on nibble boundaries. And so I gave you 5 nibbles, or 2.5 bytes. So it breaks CyberChef. So you either have to find a way to make it split on a byte boundary, as in double the string, or do it by hand, which is what I wanted you to learn. It's a lot of fun. So I had fun creating that one for you. I hope you enjoyed it. Another one that people bugged me about said, why doesn't this scan on my phone? Why doesn't my app work? Why doesn't it scan on the online app? This is, anybody know what this QR code is now? No, it's not QR code, it's 2D barcode. What is it? It's a data matrix. And the reason people are having problems scanning is because it's actually a mirrored image. And if your app or your tool doesn't properly detect it as a mirror image or a rotated image, which some of the apps are just very lazy and they expect it one way, then it doesn't work. I tested it on a couple online tools and various apps that do work and take it all. When they build a redundant compatible app, they'll get you to a website. How many here saw Clippy? Hands up. Did you like Clippy? So Clippy's Revenge. It was a lot of fun. If you used it in Chromium, or in Chrome, Google Chrome, the key was in your clipboard immediately. As soon as you click the copy key button, it overwrote whatever was in the clipboard. All you had to do was load the page and paste the key into anywhere, and you already had the key. It was a fun troll. If you didn't see it, I want to show it to you. And I told him it doesn't have sound, but this one does have sound, and it doesn't matter. Well, this was Mini Badge. Yeah, Mini Badge. There we go. So we've got Clippy here. Clippy's Revenge popping up, making all the classic Clippy sounds, bouncing around, giving you hints. Once again, now right now the key is in my clipboard. So if I were to come up here, the flag that you needed is that flag. The real flag was the friends we made along the way. As soon as you clicked the copy flag or tried to copy and paste this flag here, it overwrote what was in the clipboard, and you didn't find your key. I know many of you spent hours digging through the jQuery JavaScript where this was hidden, but the easy way was just to run it in Chrome and paste it into as your key. Okay, Clippy, bye. Okay, unsolved challenges. There were 2 on the board. The root of the problem and in plain sight. Root of the problem. This was an interesting challenge. Right, Jason, you want to come up and talk a little bit about it? Your experiences digging through it? Spectre, you willing to walk up here and tell us a little bit? Okay. So root of the challenge was unsolved. Essentially, it was a hardware device that was down in the healthcare community, and there was some difficulty there that we believed it to be vulnerable to a CVE and an issue that it actually was not vulnerable to. And so in order to solve this one, you would have had to tear apart the device and do some hardware hacking. In plain sight. I have this on my slide. I don't remember which one it is. Veracrypt. Oh, Veracrypt. Yes. A lot of hours on that. Let's pull up my notes here, because I don't remember. Okay, so Veracrypt, we have a Veracrypt volume that Veracrypt has an outer volume and an inner volume. The password to the inner volume is Shane134. So the idea was here that you'd be able to brute force this password based off of the list of passwords and examples of what they'd used. You would notice that this favorite number was 134, that you had names that they had reused in these, and so you'd build this password list based off of all these examples that were already used. So pretty easy, so you confirm that. And then in that volume, once you open, there was a couple red herrings, so you don't waste your time in there. And then there was a hidden volume inside that was pretty obvious, supposed to be pretty obvious to crack. The hidden volume, once again, is Charlotte134. Once again, built on that same password list, same favorite numbers, except that there was a custom iteration count. Once again, though, if you see that and you're trying how many times I iterate through this, it's that same number that's showing up in the whole string. And then there's a file that was deleted in that volume with the flag. It was a complex challenge. So those are the 2 on our board that were unsolved this year. I would love to hear lessons learned and your feedback and experiences with them. I like to have difficult challenges. I'm not afraid there's ones unsolved on the board, but I want them tuned these so that they play well for you too. Okay, so let's talk about some of the fun stuff up here and some of the interesting things that we saw from your logs. And then we will be open for a few questions for other challenges. do I need to flip that up?
It should be on. All right. So there was a challenge that I gave you this image. I teach at Idaho State University, and I gave you this image, and you have to give me 2 images back, one that looks like mine and one that doesn't. But yours have to have the same MD5 hash. And there's a tool online that will do this. And I got some great submissions for images that don't look like mine. This was my submission. Very plain. Oh, and thank you for not making me look at inappropriate images.
Very clean community. Thank you.
Very clean community. Yes. I was afraid of what I would see when I started going through the images. This does not look like my image. Right? Also, not my image. This appears to be a different tool that I haven't seen before, and I'm curious, whoever submitted this one, I'd love to know what tool you used to generate it. It just says image generated by an AI using MD5, blah, 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 blah. This is my new desktop background. This image also does not look like mine. And this also doesn't look like mine. Yeah. All right. So there's another one.
So I want to talk about this one for 1 second. So this hash collider image, is this another image? Or we're going to the next challenge?
No, that's.
Oh, you're okay.
We'll
We'll
go back to the jet.
Yeah. So hash collider. This was a fun challenge. This year, we finally hit the point where MD5 collisions aren't just you have to use a GPU and spend 4 hours or 8 hours or to get a hash collision. We have identified several methods where you can generate a collision in images or PDFs or various other file formats by padding them with the metadata and the other environments in those images to match your hashes.
Yeah, and there were a bunch of different, okay, a lot of you submitted things and then complained that the image comparison didn't work well. And everything I know about image comparison, I learned on Sunday. So
I have to tell you, I gave him this idea for this challenge like
Saturday. Yeah.
So like,
I woke up Sunday morning like, I could do that. Oh, wait a minute, this is a lot harder than I thought it was. Yeah, so that was my day on Sunday. But it was a lot of fun. So it was a variant of that challenge. Google posted all the knowledge you needed to do for doing the same thing, but with SHA-1 and PDF. So I gave you an image that says, look, don't touch the llama. And these are responses I got. This was my example. This is it's our Performing Arts Center at ISU. And this is, create a challenge that involves creating a SHA-1 collision. That'll help everyone understand that SHA-1 should die. Okay, these images are not like mine. Yeah, I don't even need to go over those. Also, not my images. So,
So once again, these were fun. Hopefully you learned a new skill and you learned something and realized something about how bad MD5 SHA-1s really actually are. So it is within the power of your laptop now to create fraudulent images that match similar to the same hash. Don't do it.
Yeah, it's instantaneous. Should I talk about shell games while I'm here?
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay, so
how many hated shell games? How many loved it?
Okay. I had a lot of fun writing them, and I'm sorry that Shell Games 2 was such a problem. It turns out VI is not really designed to be a shell. Who knew?
we started on shell games back in January.
Yeah, and then I kind of fell off the face of the earth. But I came back to it and ended up coming up with a total of 8 of them. These are some of the highlights I saw. With the Perl one, so I gave you the problematic eclectic rubbish lister that Larry gave me, which is Larry Wall Perl. I saw some folks who tried to use expect. I didn't install any extra packages. That takes work. You couldn't fork processes, so system bash, that wasn't going to work. File slurp, I don't even know what that is. Somebody tried to create their own slave PTY and really write a shell. I commend the effort. Wasn't going to work, but I commend the effort. for lol code. Okay, who doesn't love lol code? Somebody wrote a calculator for lol code, or at least pasted one from somewhere online. Unfortunately, it has a syntax error. There's also somebody who just said, "Give me flag," which didn't work either. I'm not posting things that worked. If you want those, I can talk about those later. And somebody just asked the very logical question, "I can has key?" and which didn't work. Somebody tried to upload an HTTP server, and this is actually much longer. And given that you were in a Docker container with net equals none, yeah, that wasn't going to work. M4 as a shell. So has anybody written sendmail configs back in the bad old days? All right. You're as old as me. So I suffered through M4, so I figured you needed to as well. What I didn't realize is M4 has a way of executing shell commands. Oops. And I didn't really control for that, so you got to get me there. For SH, okay, I loved this particular example, and I think this is the last example on my slide deck. They did an LS. They said, "Oh, there are files here." And then they read the README file. They didn't bother to read the key, but they did poke around and say, "Okay, what files are on here? Where am I?" The key, it's right there. Get the key. So, but whatever. And if you're interested in how these challenges were set up, I'll be doing a write-up for how I set these up so that I limited your scope of influence.
This grew a couple times.
Oh, it did. And I was really surprised. Again, a really safe, nice community. I gave you CC as a shell, and you could write an arbitrary C program. And I saw a few people who tried to call exec, which wasn't going to work. But nobody tried to create a reverse shell.
I was the only one.
Except for Josh. Tried to create a reverse shell out of the VM, which wasn't going to work, but because I thought of that. But anyway, that's what I've got, I think, for slides.
Okay. We've got a little bit of time here. I'm going to ask you, which challenges do you want to hear about? What questions do you have? You want to know about nesting dolls? Nesting dolls was fun. This was the great contribution by Professor Plum this year. Hacker's Challenge wouldn't be the same without some of his interesting, nightmarish puzzles. And so Plum says it was just medium hard this year, not hard. Do you agree? So two of you solved it. Oh, I don't even have my list of chains here. I've got the walk through the steps here. Do I dare? Okay, give me 2 seconds here. Let's see if I can Discord without making you guys sick or showing anything I shouldn't. I have friends. Do you want to come up here and talk through it? We'd love it. Well, come up. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So if you want a reminder, here's Plum's hints.
Yeah, that's perfect. So I'm K-Fates. I always enjoy Hackers Challenge. This year I had other stuff, so I wasn't playing all the time, every night. But still, tons of fun. And so I focused on this challenge because I knew it would be a fun one. The first step was, as mentioned, get it to not be detected by your antivirus. For me, that was just when it detected it, go in and say, ignore this one, it's okay, right? And then the first step I tried was like, okay, what happens if I open it up and run it? I trust Professor Plum, even though it's saying it's a virus, it's not gonna completely destroy my computer, so I'll do that. And as soon as I do that, antivirus flags it again and pulls it out, like, oh crap. Right? So download it again. This is not a virus, right? Okay, let's not run it. Let's just, it's a Word doc. let's do some analysis with Word docs, right? And pull out the VBA macro. And so use tool did that, and on the VBA macro, then it's right got a call to PowerShell, and it's like, okay, let's get the PowerShell script out of there and run it in PowerShell. And there's other ways to do it, like it's looking for certain flags of if this flag is present, then go ahead and run. Most of the time, instead of giving it the key that it's looking for, I would find a way to bypass it. So when we got to the .NET assembly, I can't remember for sure. I think that one was maybe looking for something in the registry. And so instead of putting the value in the registry, I just used IDA to modify the binary. And when it does that check, essentially jump over it and skip it.
Let me mention, if you missed some of these checks, if you didn't set the flag in the registry or you didn't jump over it, you'd get partial flag at the end. You'd have a flag with parts of the message and then the rest would be fuzzed out. Or you had to go back and not just find each of these steps, but you had to actually identify what they were doing and patch for it.
Yeah. And so a great point of that is when it then calls in to the DLL, it passes it a value. And I couldn't figure out how to run the DLL I could have, but of setting the right flags. I was running the DLL directly using run DLL 32, which lets you just launch a DLL as code. But it needs the value that it's passed in. So I would then in IDA go in and modify the registry and just give it the value that was passed in so that it would have it to decode the string. And then the last step from that DLL is it's got a AES encrypted binary that you run. And again, I just use IDA to step through and run it. And that one's making some calls out to DNS to get a domain name and then to make a TCP call. And so again, I'm just watching, looking for those steps and giving it what it's looking for. And each time you find what it's looking for, give it, and then it's able to decode the flag. And at the end, you get the message, here's the flag. So.
Thanks, Gifuse. Good job.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Professor Blum, for the great challenge. I want to call out Billions of Blocks. Who had fun with Minecraft? I know several of you spent hours on it. I hear some of you had some interesting solutions to it. Bash, can I call you up?
Yeah. This is Minecraft. This challenge is really fun.
Really fun challenges from Minecraft. So let me pull it up and just so we can see the. So basically, you're given a Minecraft seed. Oh, you're given a Minecraft video, and your goal is to find the seed that generated this world.
Yeah. So if you haven't played Minecraft before.
Mike.
Oh, good. We have a mic.
Mike for Mike.
Yep. If you haven't played Minecraft before, which many people haven't, believe it or not, the world is randomly generated. So it just starts with a random number, and based on this number, the entire world is created. And so the whole point of it is what you're trying to do is you're watching this video, and you're looking for parts in the video that are based off of this seed number and trying to work backwards. And so do you think you could just pull the video up for a half second and just skip halfway through? So kind of
I've got it here.
What he does is he walks around and he cuts down trees. So
I thought I had it right here.
it's fine.
No.
So he cuts down these trees, and the method of solving this is based on the trees. There are randomly generated leaves around the tree, and these leaves are generated based on the seed. And so to solve it, what you have to do is you have to go through every single tree and look at the leaves and mark them. And then you basically go through and brute force every possible seed that would have those leaves missing. And once you've got that, you end up with a seed value that you can use to generate the world. But that wasn't good enough because Q decided not to let us use the seed number, and we had to come up with the written value for this seed, of course. So you take all of these possible seeds that they could have been, and you put it into Hashcat, and then you run a huge Hashcat attack against this. So it is a mix of brute forcing a seed number and then brute forcing the written value for it. The hardest part for me was in the beginning of the video. If you're looking at it, there is someone that says a chat message that says hello world. I looked over that for about 3 hours. This live overflow person is actually really important, and this is a huge hint. There's a person who did a video about 3 months ago that talks about the entire process of doing this.
How somebody hacked my Minecraft servers, I think he named it.
Yeah, he's like, they hacked my Minecraft server. And there's a community that goes around and watch streamers' videos and will then hack their seeds and publish them publicly. And they have gone through and they have found all of these methods. So if you want to replicate this, you can go watch his video and then spend 45 minutes to 12 hours trying to crack it. The worst part is he did it at night, so.
So I will call out a few other examples I saw solving this. Thanks, Bash Ninja, for walking us through it. I saw people take and invert the video so they could have better contrast. I saw somebody take and choose a different artifact instead of trees to generate their seeds off of. What artifact was it?
The things I used was one, the portal. Portals are generated on a chunk-wise basis. And so there's only so many portals, so that was the first artifact I checked for. But that gave me. Do you want me to come up?
If you want to. I'd love to have you. This is an interesting puzzle. It was fun for being the password crack category because password cracking isn't always about cracking just a password. There's other things to attack.
Okay. Is it on?
It should be. Are we good on the?
There. It was just turned off. Okay, so the artifacts that I was looking at, I was watching them do it with the trees and going, okay, what's this? That means you have to like look at every individual block when you're doing that. But there's a portal, a ruined portal there, which generates chunk-wise. And so I could check, is there a portal in this chunk? And that was the first thing I did. And that gave me a whole slew of possible outcomes. And like Bash was talking about, there was, fun fact, 2 to the 64th million possible, or 2 to the 64th possible seeds. So we can do that by the time the sun burns out, maybe?
Yeah.
But when you use a string, it actually cuts that down to 2 to the 32, which we can do in it takes about 30 minutes, or 15 to 30 minutes just running through every possible seed. So I used the portal, and then to limit it even further, I paused the video along the way and got his current location and the biome. We just blanked out. And so I set a bunch of points along the way. At this point, he's in the beach biome. Now he jumped to a forest biome, back to a beach biome, back to a forest. And I put a bunch of those points in, and then if it failed anywhere along the way, I just discarded that seed and would go to the next seed. And I had 6 or 7 points that I actually sampled. So I could have kept adding more points and made it even tighter. But with 6 to 7 points, that gave me 6 possible seeds. And I just loaded up Minecraft. And with 6 seeds, I can manually check 6 different seeds. And so on the Discord server, I actually pasted a picture of it during the daytime so you can see what it looks like.
Thank you.
I wrote it in C. The other thing is my solution is based on somebody else's, and I'm going to document it someplace. But it was written in C, so it runs a lot faster. The other thing is brute force in the words. What we wound up doing is we generated a set of we took DICT, D-I-C-T, the words list from Unix, and just made and just hashed all those. We had a set of hashes to check against. We had errors on our part on reading them in. I'll blame me. It was because I was reading it unsigned and it needed to be signed.
And so when I figured that out, I could have actually made it even quicker because I already had a smaller set of seeds that I was iterating through.
Thank you. Okay. Just to tell you the flag there. Yeah. Staying in theme, the flag was creeper, the seed. So, any other particular challenges that people want to call out or ask questions about? I hope. Oh, yep. I don't remember. Yes, there he comes. Thank you. Come on up.
I'm Skettrick. I did the AppSec community
Step this way a
this
little
year.
bit, Skettrick. Thanks.
So the vulnerability that you're looking for is related. It's the same kind of vulnerability that was my very first hack. So if I think Troy's in the other room, but he owes me a hack badge now. Anyway, it's mass assignment. So when you log in or when you register your user, we take all the data in the request and stick it in the database. So if you put in is_superuser as one of your fields and set that to true and submit that, you are a super user in the application. So the solution is filter out that field, make it so that people can't just make themselves super user on registration.
So taking input that you normally don't expose to the user and they're adding that input and you're not filtering it out. Yeah. Awesome.
And you could figure that out from looking at the database, the table, what fields are in there, and how that data gets to the database.
Thank you, Skettrick. Appreciate it. Any others? We've got about 5 minutes until we need to wrap this up. Thank you so much for playing Hackers Challenge. I promised some more beginner ones to make it a bit easier to begin. Please stick around for closing ceremonies. We've got some people that have earned some fabulous prizes and really deserve the black badge that's coming towards them. So, oh, one more question? Santiago, can you mind talking about JWT Part 2? I'll pull it up.
Okay.
Which one particularly were you thinking about?
Yeah, that's so yeah, this is very straightforward. Basically, the easiest way to solve this is with there is a plugin for Portswigger's Portswig Pro, and it does it. I think it's called key exclusion, and it just sets the algorithm to none, and you just remove the signature.
The one issue that I came across, because I was doing it by hand,
Mm-hmm.
was I had to add a period at the end.
Yes.
My token
Yeah.
or my cookie,
Yeah.
with nothing after it, which
Yes.
it wouldn't accept it without it.
Yeah.
So it's just one of, I mean, that was
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you, everyone, for playing Hackers Challenge. I will be back next year, and we will have a slew of awesome puzzles for you to enjoy. Thank you, Rigel. Thank you, Santiago. Thank you, Sheeprock and Squatch. We appreciate it.